Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Awesome Sunday Show. Connor speaking again.
Pat here.
Um, so Pat, last night we saw Deadpool.
Yes, we did.
How awesome was it?
It was fantastic.
Yeah. So Deadpool came out February 12th, but we actually saw it the 11th. It was a Thursday night showing. So yeah, this is going to go up Sunday, so it's going to be after the weekend. Just in case you're waiting for any reviews for it or whatnot, you can know our opinion.
Yeah, this one is going to be a more spoilery review.
Spoilery, yeah.
Spoilery. Can't speak. So might want to, at this point, wait if you got this far until you see it to listen to this.
Yeah.
We're also going to go into some background info. So after you see it, if you want to, listen to our review and then learn a little bit more about it. But Connor's going to do a couch review, and that one is going to be much more.
Well, the couch review is going to go up before this.
Yeah, it's going to go up before this. So if you want a spoiler free, or as little spoilers as possible, watch that first.
And Pat's going to be on it too.
I am. Then listen to this. Okay, so if you got to this point, you don't want it spoiled, maybe stop right here, or here,
Or here.
or here, and now we're going to get into some spoiler talk.
Or if you don't ever want to listen to anything about it, you can lay your head on train tracks and take some Advil PM, and then you'll be set for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's it does wonders. For sure.
Yeah.
It does wonders.
It works every time.
All right, so getting to Deadpool, it was awesome.
It was
flat
great.
out awesome.
It was really funny, and it's you gotta go into it though. Like it's a great action movie, and there are some like good there's some good dramatic moments to it too, surprisingly. But it's a comedy.
Yeah, first and foremost, it's a comedy, action comedy.
Yeah.
Comic book movie. Although it functions itself as more like a comedy and an action movie. If you just take out some X-Men characters, more or less. But yeah, it was well balanced in terms of all of those components. Very, very well balanced. Ryan Reynolds has been trying to make this movie for 11 years, and we got our first on-screen instance of Deadpool.
And it was
a
worth
monstrosity. Well, in X-Men Origins.
Oh, in X-Men Origins.
Which was
Not
a
worth it.
monstrosity. But I was glad that he tore that apart a couple times in the movie.
Yeah, they openly say how stupid it is in the movie.
Yeah. He straight up bashes it. And for those who aren't familiar with Deadpool, he's a mercenary. He has a healing factor, advanced strength, agility, typical superhero stuff. But his most prominent feature is his healing ability. That's his mutant gene.
Yeah, it's not even just healing, but it's regeneration too.
Yeah, it's regeneration, much like Wolverine. He's capable of being regenerated from, I think, a single drop of blood. Because I know Wolverine is, and they have about pretty much the same level of regeneration. So more or less a drop of blood, which we do see him regenerate some body parts on this. And another big feature of Deadpool is his comedy, his insanity, and his habit of breaking the fourth wall.
All the time.
All the time. He is the only or one of the very, 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 very few that are aware he's a comic book character. And in this instance, he's aware that he's in a movie. And it's something he frequently does. And in fact, there was one gag where he breaks the fourth wall to talk to the audience in terms of talking about a flashback. And then in that flashback, he breaks the fourth wall and he goes, wow, breaking the fourth wall twice, that's like breaking 16 walls.
Yeah, it was great.
It was just really funny the way he's acknowledging it. And there's even some scenes where he'd be start off talking to the X-Men characters who are Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead in this one. Those are the two X-Men members of the X-Men that are involved in this.
And they're in the movie a lot. They're not like, I was scared in the trailer that
cameos, but they have a big part of the movie.
They do in 11 scenes and for a good amount of time, and they contribute a lot, especially to the ending.
And they didn't just do right by Deadpool too. Like Deadpool was so annoying in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but they also did right by Colossus too.
I preferred this version of Colossus much more. than any of the previous.
But there's
X-Men
no
movies.
other previous versions. He's in there for a second, changes, and he's like, stay with the kids, okay? Like,
Yeah,
there's really
fair
nothing
enough.
to compare to.
Okay, but at least in terms of his look too, they look
Oh, yeah.
very, very different, and I prefer this version. I think it's much more true to the comics as well as his personality, but his look. He's much more intimidating in this because he's ridiculously like big and like his muscles are huge, whereas the ones in the X-Men movie, he was more tall than anything. A little.
He was still for an average human. He's
He
jacked.
was like a linebacker size, but this guy's like a scaled down version of the Hulk big, almost. And his personality, they nailed it. He's like very proper, goody two shoes almost, but very funny. Like the one scene where he's fighting Angel Dust, who is Ajax being the main villain sidekick, where he's fighting her and her boob pops out. He's like, oh, you're left. Yep, you're left. You're left. Yep,
Yeah, that was a great scene.
Yep. Okay, there you go. You got it. She's like, oh, thanks. Yeah, and punches him right in his chrome dick.
Yeah, dude,
That's hysterical.
like literally, and I didn't even really see it coming until the camera pans down, and I was like, okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Like,
So back to my point of him breaking the fourth wall. When Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead first come to confront Deadpool after his massacre on this highway, he starts by talking to them, and then he turns to talk to the camera for a little bit, and they're like, "Are you talking to us, or what are you doing?" And he's like, "No, I'm talking to them." And they didn't get it. They just thought he was being insane, but he was actually breaking the fourth wall.
yeah.
Which itself adds for a lot of humor.
But that also brings up the debate: is Deadpool insane, or is he actually more aware than the other characters?
Well, I think it's both, because they didn't do it in this, but in like previous versions of Deadpool, like in the comics and then in the Deadpool video game, there's two other voices in his head that he's constantly like battling. There's one who's more like calm, goes through logic and is very very smart, and then there's the other voice who's insane, like more insane than Deadpool, who's constantly going off. They didn't do that in this. They just had Deadpool himself. In this way, he was more aware than the other characters, but in the comics, he's both, I guess. Battling voices in your head while being aware that you're a comic book character. Because even in Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, he comes out of the comics to confront and kill his writers.
Yeah.
Which is really funny. So, yeah, but in this, he's more aware of what's going on than anybody, and he frequently touches the camera, too. But it's funny. And you know what? It was well used because a lot of people expected Deadpool just constant fourth wall breaking, constant, insane jokes and stuff. And, yeah, that's two aspects of his character, but I think they balanced it very well without overdoing either one, in my opinion. And Deadpool's kind of become, he's not a cult favorite character, but he's very popular, especially around like Comic-Con. And
He's past cult
yeah, he's
character.
like but he's like at Comic-Con and other conventions like that, when people dress up like him, they take one aspect of him, like the insane pervy or like fourth wall breaking, and they just use that factor of him at conventions and then just use that in trying and in capturing his character, and it gets way overdone and kind of brings him down a little bit. But luckily in this, they didn't rely on that too much.
No.
They did it when it was appropriate, and they did it to add to the plot and to the humor, which I really appreciated. And then also this was the director's directorial debut.
Yeah, I
Tim
didn't know
Miller.
that until we sat like right before the movie. You told me or something
Yeah.
like that. It was like, but didn't they do like a short?
They did test footage.
Yeah, it was test footage, and it was really super like well received. And
Well, that's what greenlit the movie. That's what got this movie made, because of how well it was received, and then the demand that was instant. It was within 24 hours of that footage leaking, the movie was greenlit. And the test footage was made by the director Tim Miller.
leaking,
Yeah, quote
unquote.
Ryan Reynolds says he's 70% sure that it wasn't him, but he's saying that like tongue in cheek because it probably was. He was on Jimmy Fallon either last night or the night before, and he said, "Yeah, I know for a fact one of us leaked it because we talked about doing it." And it worked because Fox is like, okay, people want this movie. All right, we'll do it. Which I'm glad because this movie is great.
Yeah.
But it was his directorial debut. Like I said, he served as creative director on a couple of movies. So he's more on the creative side, like visuals and design and stuff. But I think he did a really great job.
Yeah, I mean, like also too, when it comes to like the spirit of the comic and as much as they could, and not so much origin, but like as much as they could, this was probably the closest I've seen to like an adaptation to like the original source material as possible.
Yeah, it was very, very accurate.
It's very accurate. It's not 100%, but like also too with the studio behind it, with the they can only really use the X-Men universe that they had.
Right.
So if it was like really the Deadpool would be like the Weapon X program,
which they did in the Wolverine movies, and they didn't call it Weapon X in this, but that's basically what he went through.
Yeah.
Which was led in this one by Ajax instead of General Stryker or Colonel Stryker, whatever he is now.
Something, yeah. But they also make fun of that in the movie too, like how confusing the timeline is.
Yeah, he straight out says it because when Klaus is like trying to drag him away to the X-Men mansion, he goes, Professor X wants to talk to you, and Deadpool goes, which one, Stewart or McAvoy? I can't keep up with this timeline nonsense. What is going on?
Yeah, he openly and that's true too, because it's so annoying how in X-Men Origins Wolverine, we see Patrick Stewart at the end of the movie. Remember that? And he's standing.
Yeah.
But in X-Men First Class, James McAvoy gets shot in the back, like
and is
paralyzed.
Yeah.
And so like again, I think X-Men Origins Wolverine doesn't count. I think they're just leaving that out of the.
Yeah, I think that's just like a side thing that doesn't factor into the universe. It just shows. It just gives a little bit of background on Wolverine, but doesn't really contribute to the X-Men movies itself.
Yeah, I think they're just forgetting about it.
More or less, they're just like, this is how he got adamantium, which is the metal that composes Wolverine's claws and his skeleton.
But now the timeline's changed. It's because of Days of Future Past.
Yeah, that's what makes it really confusing. And I mean it. Also, the fact that you went the last 3 X-Men movies, they went right back into the past to, was it the 60s or the 70s? And
in First Class, it's the 60s.
Yeah. Okay. So they go into the 60s. So they go further back compared to X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, and then that's when Charles Xavier is paralyzed.
Yeah,
and
then in Days of Future Past,
which is the 70s,
he's capable of walking, but that's because he takes some sort of drug.
Right.
But then in that Days of Future Past, just like messed with the timeline completely because the future X-Men, like the X-Men from X-Men 1, 2, and 3. Prior to Days of Future Past are in it, and they're fighting for the future, and they have Kitty Pryde send Wolverine back to change the past, to change what led to the future being destroyed by the Sentinels.
Yes.
So that reset the timeline and then kind of divided it completely.
It kind of divided it, but also too, like they did solve an issue, like as far as like what would like because like the main series kind of turned the main series turned into the First Class series.
Yeah.
So I think what they did was they kind of they just wanted to resolve like anything that happened after X-Men 3.
Yeah.
Because technically, since they changed the past, X-Men 3 never really happened.
Right. Exactly.
At all. Maybe and like X2 happened because you see Beast.
Yeah.
And Beast is in X2. He's in X3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I forget which one exactly.
So X-Men 2 might never even really happened.
One of them didn't, or neither of them did,
or any of them.
Yeah, or really any of them.
In fact, if you really think about it, if I guess now, like I'm starting to realize, like after Days of Futures Past, like X-Men 1, 2, and 3
just never
happened.
Yeah, so you can kind of discount that. So, but we don't know where Deadpool fits into the timeline. Now he doesn't even know. Ryan Reynolds isn't even sure because it depends on what they do. With Apocalypse, the next X-Men movie, which there will be, I don't know what year, but Bryan Singer's signed on to do another one, and then with Deadpool 2, like we don't know where he is in the timeline, so we don't know exactly where he crosses over. He just is in some timeline where the X-Men exist and in full capacity, and then Professor X is either James McAvoy or Patrick Stewart.
We just
don't
don't know.
But we could assume he's paralyzed in it. He acknowledges Beast. He tells Beast to stop shitting on my lawn.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really mention any other X-Men characters, so we don't know exactly what the timeline is.
Which is another joke they make.
Yeah, which is another joke. Also, we don't know what the lineup is, so we don't know where he fits in there, other than that the X-Men keep trying to bring him on to their team, and he keeps refusing. Understandably, he has served with the X-Men before, but he's also done the majority of his work has either been with X-Force or Solo, pretty much, or with Cable,
or with Wolverine.
Like he bounces around. He's not set in stone in one group,
which I like.
Yeah, it's better, and it serves him better that way. You know, because first and foremost, he's a mercenary.
Mm-hmm. He's not a hero, and like they say it a lot in the movie too.
Yeah,
how much he's not a hero, and it's like, but at first I was like, they're really gonna go with this route, but then I realized that they are kind of making fun of that trope.
Yeah,
and like you don't really get it towards the end.
Yeah, he's basically categorized as an anti-hero.
Yeah,
he's not evil. He does some shitty things, but he's not full-on hero. He's not, always going to save the world. He's doing what's best for him, what he wants to do, what's funniest, what's fun, what won't bore him. And then one thing, like, while he's a mercenary, at one point in the comics it's revealed he's never cashed a check, which is surprising because he's probably made a shit ton of money. But so in this, he's more or less the same thing. Yeah. And he was a mercenary before he got transformed into Deadpool, before he got his healing factor. He went from the U.S. Special Forces to being dishonorably discharged to being a mercenary who hangs out at this bar. It was like something sisterhood for...
I think it's a traveling sisterhood. No, it's not that. It can't be
No, in the bar that they hang out.
Yeah, I forgot
they make it seem like it's a nun-run orphanage or something.
Oh, hold on, let me see.
But it's really just a shitty bar filled with shitty people who are, criminals, other mercenaries, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, even before he went through the Weapon X program, which it's not called in this, but it's more or less the same thing. So the main cast in this, obviously, Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. Wade Wilson, who is a ripoff of Slade Wilson, a.k.a. Deathstroke. I mean... They have
straight up,
yeah. And Marvel jokes about that, and he jokes about it himself in comics. Like they just dropped SL and made it W, and then actually gave him regenerative healing instead of just being like a super soldier. But they're more or less the same.
Yeah, I mean it's just
it's
personality-wise,
completely
different.
He is a ripoff, and then changed a bit, and it's well acknowledged. But I think Marvel did it well with the personality they gave him.
Yeah,
to make it well, and some differences in their abilities, but yeah, he's a ripoff. Then we got Marina Baccarin as Vanessa Carlyle, aka Copycat, which she's not acknowledged as in this movie. Which I wonder if they'll go with that in Deadpool 2, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't because her powers are so similar to Mystique. Even though Jennifer Lawrence Mystique is not going to be in any X-Men movies after Apocalypse, but so far there's been 2 Mystiques in X-Men movies. They might go with a third because Mystique is 1 very popular and 2 very important.
They will.
So I don't know if they'll go with
there's no way
Copycat's powers for the next movie or if they'll change them around a little bit or what. So we'll see. And fun fact, Marina Baccarin was on The Flash Season 1 as the voice of Gideon, the supercomputer from the future that Reverse Flash uses.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think she's also on Gotham. And Homeland.
She was on Homeland. I think she was in the first season of Gotham. No, the second season.
Yeah, and that show's bad, but
But
regardless, she's been in a couple comic book things.
But yeah, she was really good in Homeland though.
Yeah, I mean, I never really got into it.
I mean, it's the first 2 seasons of Homeland are awesome. Like some of the best television you ever watched. But after that, it's trash.
Yeah, that's what I've heard repeatedly. Although I heard the most recent season kind of brought it back up, which whatever. I probably won't watch it, but it's got a really great cast, especially from in the first season.
Oh yeah, it's got the guy. I forget his name.
Damian Lewis.
Not well. He's awesome, but the guy that's Inigo Montoya in The Princess Bride.
Mandy Patinkin.
Yes, that guy. He's great on the show.
Yeah, he's a terrific actor. But yeah, moving on from that. Yeah, so she's been involved with like comic book stuff, and she was also involved in Firefly, so she's been in like cult things too before, or cult followings. And then we got Ed Skrein as Francis Freeman, aka Ajax, who is the big bad of the movie. And I think it was a really good casting choice because Ed Skrein, I mean, he hasn't been in a lot of great things, but he's a good actor, and I like his portrayal in this because Ajax is a little more over the top like Deadpool in the comics.
Right.
So I'm glad they toned him down and made him more grounded and made him just like
It didn't shift the focus from Deadpool.
right. They kind of made him like a charming asshole a little
Yeah.
bit. It helped that he was British, so like that added to like the basically brought his charming thing. But he played a super douche really well. And I really liked him and the way that Deadpool like kind of like bounced off him and like talked shit to him.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wish they did keep because I thought it would have been really funny is his last name if they would have kept it as Fanny instead of Freeman. Because in the comics, Ajax's real name is Francis Fanny. So I think that could have added for some jokes. I mean, they would have been like cheap gags, but they still would have been funny.
It would have been, yeah. I mean, but there was also enough jokes
that they could have done without it. Yeah,
at his expense though already.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact, like, the I don't know why. Like, Francis is not a bad name, but for some reason, like...
He just doesn't like it.
Yeah.
He's very upset by it.
Yeah, I guess it's just because it's not a very, like, intimidating name.
Yeah.
It's just... I don't know why. He just would just, like, Francis. He's like, his name's Francis. It's the punchline, but it's a great punchline.
Yeah. And it's just... Yeah, like you said, it's not really a funny name. It's just funny the way he gets upset by it.
I think it's just because it's not really like. Yeah, I guess it's just not an intimidating name at all because Ajax isn't an intimidating name.
Yeah,
like,
and it's funny when he got his name from a pipe cleaner
or
like that?
No, Ajax is a dishwashing detergent or whatever.
Detergent. Okay, yeah. So he acknowledges that and makes fun of it. But yeah, frequently throughout the movie. Ajax goes, "What's my name?" to Wade, and he starts off saying Francis, then he stops saying it. But then at the end was the best part where he spelt out his name on the ground using the dead bodies of the soldiers.
Yeah,
he spells it out, Francis. I don't know why. It was just such a funny part. Like it was just such a funny part of like their relationship. And then T.J. Miller served as Weasel, who's Wade's pretty much best friend. He serves as a bartender at that bar, whatever the hell.
Yeah, I tried looking it up and I didn't find it. I also looked in Wikipedia.
Yeah, so regardless, whatever it is, but yeah, he serves as Deadpool's best friend, and he also bet on Wade prior to becoming Deadpool to die in the bar's Deadpool, which is basically like which of the members of that club and mercenaries they expect to die.
Mm-hmm.
And which is actually how he got his name at least in the movie. They were trying to come up with a name and they couldn't think of anything good, and then he sees the Deadpool, which is the name of that, and he goes, I got it, Captain Deadpool.
Yeah, like no, just Deadpool.
Just Deadpool. But the way that they riffed together was so funny.
Yeah. You got the feeling that they were friends, like 100%. Because, I mean, T.J. Miller Weasel would rip on Deadpool, like to a point where it was like if it just was so, it was pretty bad. But like only friends could get away with something like that.
Exactly. It's like when we talk shit to like Damien, who is a bitch, but it happens, and then like it was really funny. And I mean the stuff they were saying to each other. You look like Freddy Krueger fucked the topograph of Utah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you look like an avocado who had sex with an older avocado.
Yeah, but not out of passion, more out of despair. like it was really down. So yeah, that's they had to cut out a lot of like they riffed on that for a while, and they had to cut out some of those jokes because they were not appropriate for like a mass release, like a general audience. But TJ Miller said it's going to be like a line-o-rama on the DVD or
which is
Blu-ray
going to be a lot of
special,
fun.
which is going to be really fun. I can't because they bounced off each other so well. It helps that they're both great. They're both very funny, and TJ Miller is a great comedian. If you've never seen his stand-up, and he's a really good improviser. And then we got Gina Carano as Angel Dust, who is Ajax's sidekick. She has basically super strength and speed. And she only said like 3 words the entire movie, from what I remember.
She said, "Oh, that you're so sweet."
Yeah, that scene when her.
She
boob
might have
popped
said
out.
something else too.
Yeah, but she's kind of more or less like a butch biker. Kind of gives off that vibe.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not offensive, but that's kind of the
That's
vibe
not
I get. And then
offensive. It's just
not
yeah.
And then she's got like some sort of mohawk, but yeah, she kicked a lot of ass. She beat the shit out of Colossus.
Well, Colossus
lot
was
of it.
winning, and like,
Well, he started off not wanting to fight her, and
Yeah.
she took advantage of that and beat him up. And then he was winning for a little bit, and then she punched him in the dick, or
like
in his
straight
chrome
up,
dick.
yeah.
After he was like distracted by her boob popping up, which was really funny. But yeah, she's like crazy tough. And the actress who played her is actually I don't think she still is, an MMA fighter, and has been doing movies for a while.
Really funny line in the movie. Again, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the movie, you really need to stop because we're giving away a lot of jokes. One of my favorite jokes in the movie was when Deadpool like turns around the field and Colossus is behind him. He like puts his hand right on his penis, like right there, and dude, he just goes, "Holy shit, your poor wife!" Like,
yeah, that was another good joke. I mean, there were so many.
yeah, there's just a lot.
Then we got
The blind woman is great.
Oh, Blind Al. Yeah, she's one of my favorite characters. She's basically Deadpool lives with her. I mean, also in the movie, but in the comics, and she's this blind old black woman who's really funny. And they cut out one of the jokes that they showed in the trailer with her, where she says, "Sounds like you got a dick in your mouth." That's kind of how their relationship constantly is, more or less. And then like how he's like openly talking to her about how he's gonna masturbate, or
Yeah.
the way he does masturbate. Like when his hand is starting to regenerate and it's like a little baby hand, he goes, "You might want to leave. I bet it's gonna feel huge in this." But that's pretty much how it is in the comics. They go back and forth, and she kind of helps him out a little bit, but he also kind of holds her prisoner in the comics. But like he's okay with it. It goes really back and forth, but
It's like really. It's actually in the movie. The relationship was kind of like more friendship, trustworthy.
yeah, more friendship. They needed somebody to live with to cover the rent.
But yeah, in the comics, she is like a prisoner.
yeah, she's more or less a prisoner, but at like certain points she just accepts it and goes with it, and they have the relationship that they do have in this. It's weird. It's a fucked up relationship they have.
Yeah, it's it's hard to explain actually.
Yeah. But in the movie, yeah, they're more or less needed to room together after they met at a laundromat. But she was really funny, and I hope to see she gets more screen time in Deadpool 2. Because there's a lot of good jokes that can come between them that has happened in the comics, and like it'll just make for more humor. And I hope TJ Miller's in the next one more too, because I loved Weasel.
Yeah.
I mean, he got a decent amount of screen time for just not really being a sidekick, more or less. In this, he was kind of just like a friend he went to help him out a little bit. But yeah, I think TJ Miller's hysterical regardless. And
it could have been a little longer.
yeah, I
movie.
think it could have been.
If they added on an extra 15 minutes, I would have been like, cool. Like,
yeah,
Because how long was it? Like an hour?
hour 40 something.
It could have been a 2-hour movie.
Yeah. Yeah, but hopefully they're in more. And then we got Jed Reeves as the recruiter. I don't think they ever gave his name, but Deadpool referred to him as Agent Smith.
Yeah.
And then
Or then Jared, the subway guy.
yeah, Jared the subway guy, child molester, which was a really well-fitting joke given what happened
Yeah.
with Jared last
Well, you
year.
have to in the beginning of the movie they make fun of him. Wade Wilson makes fun of him for looking like a child molester.
Yeah.
And then he's like, stay away 500 feet from a schoolyard and blah blah blah. But then like if you didn't hear that joke, you wouldn't have gotten the Jared joke in the middle of the movie when he's like hunting down Ajax, but like trying to look for Ajax through his men. And then he calls him, "Hey Jared, like I can go for your footlong or whatever." That's like a lot of people didn't really laugh at that joke in the theater because I don't think they remembered that Wade Wilson.
Yeah, I don't think they picked up on it.
Yeah,
But we picked up on it, and it made it so much.
it made it that much better. And also, there's a really funny Spider-Man reference from Spider-Man 1 in there. Did you notice it?
I did, but why don't you go with it?
All right, so there's a scene when they're in the strip club and whatchamacallit, what's her name? Vanessa is kind of gets the feeling that Wade Wilson's there. She's working at the strip club that night. She's a waitress and or stripper. I don't know if she is a stripper there, but
They showed her as a waitress there. But
Yeah.
earlier in the movie, she was a prostitute.
yeah. And so someone goes up to her and says, "Hey, in the back, someone's out there waiting for you." And she goes out there, and it's raining, and like the alley looks super similar to the alley from Spider-Man 1.
Yeah, I think that was very intentional.
It was so intentional. So, but like the thing is, though, obviously Spider-Man's not hanging there upside down, but there's a figure in the shadows, kind of like Spider-Man from Spider-Man 1, and it ends up being Ajax. But so at first I was like, oh, I thought they were gonna kind of like do a Spider-Man reference there. But what happens is Deadpool goes up to Weasel. And he goes, "Oh, where's she? Like, hey, where'd she go?" And she goes, "Oh, she went outside. He goes, go get her, Tiger."
Yeah.
Which, if you read Spider-Man, Mary Jane
Or
Watson,
watched any of the first three.
yeah, Mary Jane Watson always calls Peter Parker Tiger. So then I was like, all right, it's totally like a nod to Spider-Man.
Yeah. And at one point where he's naming like certain characters, he's like making fun of their names. He does spin Spider-Man's name. I forget exactly what he called him, but it was something like that. He made fun of Spider-Man more than once in it. Which they also did. I don't know if you've ever seen Ultimate Spider-Man, the TV show.
The one where
cartoon.
Drake Bell does the voice.
No, Will Friedle, who was Eric Matthews on Boy Meets World, he does it.
Oh, he does it.
That one. I mean, Drake Bell did a series, but a different one.
I
This is a
think
different
Drake
one.
Bell did the Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah, that one wasn't that good. But there's a whole episode between Spider-Man and Deadpool that was really funny. You can look up a clip of it on YouTube. But yeah, he's like pulling up, like making fun of Spider-Man. They're battling, and then he breaks into the fourth wall and puts Spider-Man in his insane delusions. But yeah, it's just a side note. It was really funny. And then Stan Lee had his best cameo in my opinion in this.
Yeah,
This
it
was the
great.
best cameo.
Yeah, he was the DJ at the strip club.
Yeah.
And it was so good.
I know. I kind of wish that he went up to him and said something, but I mean, just seeing him as the strip club DJ was more than enough.
Yeah.
To make up for it. It was so funny, and it's just another one of those jokes that just like it wasn't even a joke. It was just funny.
I thought they were gonna have a better cameo because up until then, the best Stan Lee cameo was in Age of Ultron when he's like the drunk general.
Yeah,
and he's
that
got
one
taken
was
out of the
really
party.
great.
That was great, and also the Amazing Spider-Man 1.
Yeah, where he's the janitor in the library.
Yeah.
And he has the music on. Yeah, that one was one of my favorite ones too.
Yeah, that
But
one was
I
great.
think this topped it.
Yeah, and this was definitely the best one because it was just so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, so another thing I really liked about this movie was we finally, for the first time live action, got to see the yellow X-Men uniform, which was worn
From
by
Negasonic,
Teenage Warhead. Who, when she first tells him Deadpool his name, he like goes, "What the shit? That's the coolest fucking name ever." Which is a badass name. Her powers are tweaked a little bit in this. Normally she's just like a telepath with some psionic powers, but in this she's
a straight up like bomb.
Yeah, she can, more or less is a bomb, and she shows that off. She can produce atomic bursts. Yeah, but that was cool to see. But yeah, so she's not. I didn't really know much about her up until this.
I didn't know much about her either. But in fact, I didn't really know about her until a little bit before the movie. But in the movie, she's a student of Colossus. In the comics,
she's his trainee.
Yeah, like his underling or whatever.
Yeah.
But in the comics, she's a student of Emma Frost.
Right. Yeah. So she was the one wearing the X-Men DL X-Men suit, which was really nice to see for the first time live action. Not that I disliked. I mean, I think the from First Class and Days of Future Past to what we see so far of the X-Men suit in Apocalypse, I've liked those.
Yeah,
it just this one has like the classic
suits in
feel.
the first one I'm not a fan of.
No, those ones were pretty bad. But from Days of Future Past to now, I think they've done a pretty good job without making them the classic X-Men suit. But it was nice to see the classic on screen.
I would love to see like a classic Wolverine costume.
Yeah. I don't think we'll ever see it. But
it's stupid though. Like
it is a dumb costume.
It's a dumb costume. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's not like if you really think about it, it kind of actually wouldn't really work in a movie. Because I would laugh out loud. If
it would just look too silly.
Yeah.
And, Wolverine is not a silly character. He's very serious almost all the time.
Yeah, I don't know how that. I don't know how that color passed.
I don't know. I guess it fit in the comics because it's the comics, and
but
in the
also
animated TV show it could work because it's ridiculous and it's.
There's also a lot of comics too where it's brown and yellow, and the brown and yellow actually kind of don't look bad at all.
It looks better.
It looks a lot better
than the yellow and blue with the stripes.
It would actually work better in a movie. If it was brown and yellow, it might be a little questionable, but not that questionable. It wouldn't take me out of the movie. But if it was yellow and blue, I would be like, that's stupid.
That is, yeah.
In the comics, I don't mind it because I guess it's classic because it's like from an era where like that would pass.
Right, but it wouldn't work well on screen. Speaking of Wolverine, Hugh Jackman wasn't in the movie, but he kind of was. His face was. He was. When Deadpool was gearing up. Well, first of all, he referenced him a couple times throughout it. But then when Deadpool was gearing up for his final battle with Ajax, and he was throwing in all his ammo and his guns, he throws in the People magazine with Hugh Jackman on the front for the year he won Sexiest Man Alive or whatever. And then at the end, when Vanessa goes to kiss or takes off Deadpool's mask to see what he looks like, he has that picture cut out and stapled to his face.
Yeah.
So he looked not like a freak.
That was great.
Which was really funny. I would love to see Deadpool and Wolverine together on screen. And I know that Ryan Reynolds wants it. It's not more likely than not going to happen.
I don't think it's going to. I don't think Hugh Jackman would want to do it. That's the thing. Like
I could see him doing it, but he wants the next Wolverine movie to be his last one. Like
the Old Man Logan.
Oh, they better do Old Man Logan because he said that. Hopefully they keep it that way.
Well, that's the thing.
I mean, Deadpool can show up in that, but
Hugh Jackman didn't really know what Wolverine was until he did the movies. But Bryan Singer said that he wanted actors that didn't know the comics because he wanted to he wanted to direct them into like how he thought how he read the comics, like their personalities. But Hugh Jackman would sneak in comics and start reading the stories, and he said actually the Wolverine going to Japan story he thought was the best one. So he actually knew like later on like Logan's past and like how he where he came from and like his stories and stuff. So I don't know if there really was an opportunity for Hugh Jackman to team up with Ryan Reynolds and do a movie like that, like I don't think he would do it, but I would like to see him do it because even though I have problems with the movie version of Wolverine, I don't like how he's not a good fighter, and I get it. They want to show the special effects of him healing and how cool it is, but Wolverine, like in the comics, he's like an excellent fighter. Like he doesn't heal all the time,
right? Because a lot of the times he's too busy kicking ass.
Yeah, he kicks a lot of ass. The only time you really see him you see his regenerative healing factors when he's fighting someone like the Hulk, or if he's in Avengers vs. X-Men, the series that came out a couple years ago. There's like a bomb that explodes and he's like regenerating from like his skeleton or something like that. So but in the movies he's constantly getting shot at and like constantly getting like stabbed, and it's just like he kind of sucks if you really think about it.
Yeah, but he just has such a badass persona.
He does. It's because Hugh Jackman is a great actor, and he
Yeah.
can, he can still bring a badass persona to it because he's amazing. So like now that I really think about it, I don't know. I think I would want a different actor to play Wolverine if they were going to do a team up movie.
I think it would. I mean,
The general population would think it's stupid.
I don't know. I think they would like it if Hugh Jackman did it.
No, if they would think it's stupid if it wasn't Hugh Jackman.
Oh, if it wasn't Hugh Jackman, yeah, I think so. But not even. I want to see them together, even if they don't do a team up movie, just for like a short bit, like a 15 minutes or and like half of Colossus's screen time in Deadpool. I think it'd be cool because Wolverine is super super serious, like I said, and Deadpool is just not in any sort of capacity. And it leads to a lot of humor and conflict with them in the comics, like when they meet up. So it could be really fun, even if it's just like a small thing. But that's one can dream, one can hope. Yeah, and like going back to your point of this Wolverine being much different from the comics, doesn't help that Hugh Jackman's a foot taller than what Wolverine is in the comics. Wolverine is short.
Yeah,
in the
he's
comics.
like 5.
He's like 5'0", 5'2", or something.
Yeah,
like that.
5'2", 5 maybe 5'3", 5'4" at best. Hugh Jackman's like what, like 6 foot?
Yeah, he's like 6 foot. Yeah, he's pretty tall. Well, not pretty tall, but he's average height. But yeah, the point is he's much taller than Wolverine is in the comics. But I think that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman would be very funny together in character. So yeah, another thing I wish they had in this movie, I mean, they showed other characters going through that Weapon X program, but like references to not just Wolverine, but other characters who have gone through Weapon X. I mean, there's not a huge list of big names, but some I would have liked to see would have been like Sabretooth, or no, he was a test subject, but that's not really how he got his powers.
No,
he's born a mutant, more or less.
Well, so was Wolverine, but they kind of Wolverine had the best healing factor out of all the mutants that had the healing factor ability.
Right.
I don't know if Sabretooth was part of the Weapon X team, but not really. He didn't really get any enhancements.
Wolverine got the adamantium added to him.
Yeah.
Which is,
Sabretooth. Did I say Sabretooth? Did I say Wolverine on accident?
Yeah.
I did. Okay, yeah. Wolverine Sabretooth didn't get the treatment from like what like Lady Deathstrike did or Deadpool did.
Yeah, I just like a little reference to them because that one character that Wade kept talking to, we don't really know who he was. I mean, they were funny together, but just a little something. But regardless, like it doesn't hurt the movie at all for it. And then another great part that we didn't mention was the post-credit scene, which you gotta stay around for.
Yeah, you have to. I don't want to. Let's not say it.
All right, but it was great.
It was really, really good.
It was great. One of my favorite post-credit scenes, I think, of any comic book movie.
It makes you wish that Fox and Marvel would be like, all right, like let's just let's get it together.
Yeah, it would be great. But Deadpool was already greenlit for a sequel. It was greenlit the other day, even before it premiered, which is great. Mm-hmm. Shows that because I mean it's done pretty well critically.
You don't,
it's like
you don't see that a lot in movies. The last movie I remember they did that to was the Lego movie, where they I think it was like a week before it was released, they greenlit it for a sequel. And I think it's because they knew that the movie was so good.
Yeah, I mean that was obviously well received, but yeah, Deadpool's doing very well critically. It's like an 80 something or 82 or 86. I forget exactly which one.
I'm pretty sure it's an 86.
But regardless, I'm kind of surprised it got that high because of the character. I was expecting.
I was not expecting a fresh rating.
Yeah,
at all.
Just because I don't think the critics. A lot of critics don't stick to a particular genre. Like some people who prefer like science fiction or drama also review comic book movies, and it doesn't fit well. So I would have expected them to take it, been a little harsher on it, but worked out very well. So that was obviously one factor, and the demand for this movie
was huge.
So I think that was a huge part of it. And then for the sequel, what Ryan Reynolds has said that he really wants, well, he wants two things for two sequels, but the first sequel, Deadpool 2, he wants Cable, which I would love. Cable is Nathan Summers. He is the son of Scott Summers, a.k.a. Cyclops.
And Jean Grey.
And
AKA
Jean Grey's clone. But yeah, so I would love to see that. He's a big character in X-Men history. He doesn't...
He's one of the most essential X-Men characters ever created.
Yes. And he's a badass. He's super powerful. But he has like telepathy, telekinesis.
He doesn't really utilize it that much.
No, he more so relies on his instincts, his wit. He's got a couple cybernetic enhancements. Like he has
it's a
a metal arm.
technovirus.
Yeah, he has a technovirus. And he's, a great fighter, great marksman, excellent shooter. And he's huge, so he relies on those more so than he does on his telepathy.
Isn't it? I might be wrong here. If my memory serves me right, his psychic ability is hindered because he's using it to sustain the technovirus.
Yeah, the technovirus. He's using his telepathy.
Otherwise, it could be a lot more powerful.
Yeah, because I think he's classified as an Omega level mutant, which is basically like the top. Mm-hmm. That's the best. The strongest level of mutants, and there's not a lot of them. But yeah, I think he's a Omega level, but he's super powerful. But regardless, he serves for the X-Men, but very indirectly because he fights more. He time travels. He was sent from once he was born and raised a little bit. He was sent into the distant future to help out the X-Men there and the world, and then he's kind of jumped all over the time stream. But he has worked frequently with Deadpool. They've had a few series together. And again, it's just like Cable is a super serious dude dealing with, an insane Deadpool. It makes for a lot of humor, but they also work very well together.
They do.
And there's some great stories with them. And
it's always the polar opposites in comics that seem to work the best together. Batman, Superman.
Exactly. Yeah, and like they make a great team, and I'm very excited because I love Cable. I think he's a great character. I think he's a badass character.
Yeah, he is great, and he is the cheapest character in Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yeah,
if you have Deadpool, if you have Cable on your team, you won. The cheapest team in that game is by far, especially if you know how to use them, is Cable, Sentinel, and Juggernaut.
Yeah, Cable's a badass. I love him. And I'm glad that we're going to get to see him live action. And then, did you play the Deadpool game that came out for PS3 and Xbox?
No, I didn't play it.
The gameplay itself is not good. It's average.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
But the story is very funny. Nolan North does a great Deadpool. In that, they use the other two voices in his head, and just as zany as you would expect Deadpool to be. And Cable's in it a bunch. And just gets fucked over by Deadpool in so many ways. But yeah, so that's going to be great. And I'm really curious to see what arc they're going to go with that, who they're going to cast. Because it's kind of difficult to cast. He's like well over 6 feet. He's hugely ripped.
Yeah, you have to get someone with the body of Dwayne Johnson, but like a much lighter skin color and white hair. Which they can dye his hair white.
Yeah, that's the easiest part. It's just finding somebody that big. Mm-hmm. Like if The Rock wasn't doing Black Adam, which I 100% want him to do Black Adam.
He needs to do that. He is born for that role.
He fits most of that description of Cable. So you find a white guy with hair, the white version of Dwayne The Rock Johnson with hair, and you got it. So he's going to be really difficult to cast. But it's going to make for a great setup. And one other thing Ryan Reynolds wants is an X-Force movie. And basically, if you don't know what the X-Force is, Cable has served on it too. It's kind of the Suicide Squad of the X-Men, more or less, but they're not villains.
They're not villains. They're kind of like the reject, not rejects either. That's kind of another strong word. It's just they're the play by your own rules X-Men.
Yeah. They're much more militant and aggressive.
It's like if you look at X-Men as the American military, X-Force is like Blackwater.
Yeah, they're like they're willing to cross the line, and they do, they get to sound stupid, but down and dirty.
I don't want to sound corny.
Yeah,
like,
I know that sounds corny, but they're a badass team. They're they don't really fit. I mean, they have had members of the X-Men on it, but it's more of like the ones who don't fit into the balance of the X-Men team. Majority of it.
Not by power wise, but kind of just by like personality wise.
Yeah, they kind of like.
Well, Wolverine's also on the X-Force too. Essentially, a lot of not a lot, but
yeah,
he's been on it.
He's been on it.
He actually makes more
around.
sense to be in the X-Force, but he's an X-Men because he's a much more popular character.
Yeah, but a lot of standard X-Men have been on the X-Force, like Wolverine, Storm, Bishop, Archangel, Cable, Colossus, Cyclops, even. So it's kind of like a mixed mash. It's kind of hard to nail them down directly, but they're really great badass team. So they're kind of like if you mixed the Guardians of the Galaxy with the Suicide Squad, because they're sort of like they tiptoe that line without being villains, but they're kind of like a group of misfits, more or less.
That
I
makes
guess
sense.
if you want to say it, yeah. But yeah, they're a great team, and I would love to see that.
Yeah, that would be
especially
great.
if they put in Cable, who was like their first majority leader, and then throw in Deadpool, who's been in a lot. And even if they don't do Wolverine, they can do X-23, who is like the
Wolverine clone.
the Wolverine clone, the female Wolverine clone, who has the same powers and stuff. She's
She's
badass.
literally the same exact powers. Like she has 2 claws instead of 3 with her hand, and she has a single claw on her feet.
Yeah, she's pretty badass. So I mean, they could do that, but they could also mix and match, any popular X-Men or X-Force character.
Yeah, that's what I like about the that's what I like about the X-Men movies and the X-Force is that they're not limited to like
they have a much, I think, broader range of lineup that they can fool around with without it being like too out there or not fitting into. Because the Avengers, they have different sects. They have different offshoots like West Coast Avengers, Young Avengers, Secret Avengers, Great Lake Avengers, but a lot of the same characters bounce around to each of those, and a lot of them aren't as popular as the ones that Marvel has used so far and are going to use Infinity War and post-Infinity War. But the X-Men, like, there's such a large number of characters that could fit in it that I think that it makes it easier for them to pick and choose. I think, and some people will just accept it, and like with Colossus and X-Men 1, 2, and Last Stand, they could just show them a little bit and just focus on the majority of popular characters like Cyclops and Wolverine and all them, which they've done. So it works easier. But yeah, Deadpool fits in that, and it's just another instance of Deadpool bouncing around from team to team. But I would like to see an X-Force movie, and I think that
I'd see it opening night.
Exactly, and I think it would work. It would be successful now, particularly because of the reason that Suicide Squad is going to be successful. It's because Guardians of the Galaxy was so successful. I don't think Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad is a great team in the comics, but I don't think it wouldn't be so anticipated now if Guardians of the Galaxy didn't blow away expectations.
I think nothing will ever be as big as a gamble as Iron Man, the first one. That's when it comes to comic book movies. Because they were really they had this idea of the cinematic universe coming together. It's 2016 now. Iron Man
Since
came out
2005. They were planning it.
Yeah,
when we first announced it at Comic-Con, and it was supposed to be Iron Man and Ant-Man were supposed to lead it.
What took Ant-Man so long?
The development and the disagreements between Edgar Wright and Marvel, and then when they realized
You're talking about Phase 1.
Yeah, Phase 1.
Okay.
And then they realized like they couldn't do him yet because they don't know how well the audience would have accepted him right away.
I think it was the right decision. Looking back,
it worked out.
Yeah,
well.
It's in hindsight, it makes sense because there's no way audiences. Marvel had to establish a name first, where it's like, because every Marvel movie that has come out is fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yes.
Every single one of them. It's
Yeah.
when it went not Marvel's like the Disney Marvel Studios, Marvel Studios themselves, not the name Marvel. That's not true at all. Hence Blade Trinity, which is on the television right now.
Which Ryan Reynolds was in.
Yeah. Didn't you say that? Wait, can you tell me the story? Can you tell the people the story that you told me at the movies about Wesley Snipes on the set?
Oh yeah. Okay. So this has to do with Ryan Reynolds, but not Deadpool. He was in Blade Trinity, which is the worst of the series.
Worst.
And I forget his character's name, but he's in it. He plays a bigger role in it. And Wesley Snipes was Blade. He was the star.
Ryan
of all
Reynolds
three
played
movies.
it. It was a human that used to be a vampire.
Right.
Because
And Ryan has said this in interviews that for the scenes that he was interacting with Blade, Wesley Snipes wouldn't show up because he'd just be constantly smoking weed in his trailer. So Ryan would have to. There would be like a crew member feeding Ryan the lines, like saying Wesley Snipes lines, and they wouldn't show him on camera, so they would just focus on Ryan Reynolds, which particularly in the scene where they're traveling in that like tractor trailer truck.
yeah.
So Ryan Reynolds really wouldn't have anything to build on. He kind of had to talk to just some random person
Which sucks for an
which
actor.
sucks for an actor, and that happened. Ian McKellen complained about that a lot in the Hobbit movies, which has been pretty prevalent in a lot of things, and in the Star Wars prequels happened a lot. But so he would just be sitting there not knowing what to say, so he just started spouting random bullshit, and he said he didn't really work with Wesley Snipes that much.
Yeah,
Even though their characters were together a lot.
that's too funny.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons that Blade Trinity was so bad.
All right, but going back to my point, I just want because before I forgot to ask you that question, I wanted you to tell that story because that's pretty funny. Yeah, in hindsight, it makes sense for Ant-Man to have been the start of Phase 3 or the end of Phase 2. It was the end of Phase 2.
Yeah, it was the last of Phase 2.
Yeah, which is weird because Avengers should have been the end, but
Yeah, whatever. It
whatever.
worked out.
It worked out. Yeah, I shouldn't be complaining about that, but because Marvel Studios, for every movie from Marvel Studios, even the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk is fresh. It may not be certified fresh, but it's fresh on
It's
Rotten
fresh,
Tomatoes.
yeah.
Which
And
kinda,
there is a difference.
Yeah,
there's
is
a
difference.
percentage difference.
It-
Certified fresh is 75%.
It's 75% or above.
And fresh is 60% or above.
Fresh is 60% to 74%.
Yeah, 60%. Okay.
So, generally, what you're telling the general audience is like, hey, we make movies that you may have. If you were to do an average, maybe 80%, like there's an 80% chance you're gonna like this movie.
Yeah.
So, and that's hard for a studio. Now, there's no studio. You can't really trust a studio like that.
Right.
I can pay a ticket for a Marvel movie and be like, hey, listen, I might enjoy this on a minimal level, but I'm still gonna enjoy it.
Like with the Thor movies.
Exactly. Like the Thor movies, like they're entertaining. I'm glad. I'm not pissed. I paid a movie ticket to see them. So I think like Ant-Man had to have been the end of Phase 2 because the general audience had to say, "Oh wait, this is from Marvel. I've liked all those movies. I'll go see it."
Yeah, and Fox has done, for the most part, a good job with
Oh
X-Men.
yeah, they've done
For
most part.
Each of them except for X3 are certified fresh, I believe.
I
or fresh.
don't think X3
Or-
is as bad as you think. That's
Well,
my opinion. Though. It's not a good movie.
in terms of general audience and critic wise, was the least successful and the least well received. So, but like even Days of Future Past is certified fresh, barely. I think it's like 76%.
Days of Future Past. Is
I mean,
like a 90.
excuse me, I meant First Class. Days of Future Past is
First Class is
90.
like an 80 something.
Regardless, like they had a pretty good track record for the most part with
right.
X-Men, which is another reason that Deadpool is working out because they've done a pretty good job, and it doesn't help. It helps that Ryan Reynolds was made for Deadpool.
Mm-hmm.
He is the perfect actor for the role. They couldn't have picked any. If any other actor were to do it, it wouldn't work.
There might be some actors that would do a good job,
But not this.
No,
good.
Ryan Reynolds he is Deadpool.
He is Deadpool like Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Right?
And Chris Evans is Captain America. I can't.
And Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Those are
The casting is awesome.
the casting is awesome, and I think one of the miscast roles, not that he did a bad job, but was Edward Norton as Bruce Banner the Hulk.
Yeah.
And he didn't even do a bad job. It's just Mark Ruffalo is so much better at
Mark
it.
Ruffalo is like, that's the thing. Like when I think of Bruce Banner, like even like when I read if I'm reading a comic or if I'm reading something, it's like it's Bruce Banner. I actually imagine Mark Ruffalo's voice now.
Yeah.
Kind of like how I imagine Kevin Conroy's voice when I'm actually reading the comics.
as Batman.
I imagine Robert Downey Jr.'s voice now. Like I used to like kind of, now I don't really. This is because it's literally because of the casting. The only person I can't really match the voice with is Captain America. I like Captain America to me has always had a more deeper, commanding voice, but Chris Evans, I can forgive Chris Evans for it because one, it's his voice. He can't change his voice. He's born with that. But two, because he is such a commanding and good actor that I don't think about that when I'm watching the movie at all.
Right, and now when I read Deadpool, I just think Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, I do.
And I have because up until they didn't start off ruining Deadpool and X-Men Origins. For a little while in that movie, while he was on the team before they sewed his mouth shut, they got a little bit of his personality in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and then the test footage came out, and then that's all I associated was Deadpool is Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. And that's another major reason that this movie is successful. And it had the highest opening night for an R-rated movie ever, and the highest midnight release, because technically today is the opening night, officially, and then the highest opening night in February history, I think.
It might be I can imagine it being the highest grossing Valentine's Day movie.
Yeah, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people are tricking their girlfriends into seeing it because
I know. I almost wish I had a
trailer.
girlfriend to do that too.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. Because like imagine you tell Becca, like, hey, like because all the Instagram photos of Deadpool are like make it look like a romance.
Yeah, that was part of their marketing campaign. They released a full trailer. They released a bunch of posters and billboards of it as a rom-com. And Ryan Reynolds has been in a bunch of rom-coms, so it makes it easier to convince a girl like that. But
yeah,
unfortunately, I couldn't pull that on Becca. But
I think she's too smart for that.
Yeah, because she knows she can catch on. Like she knows of Deadpool. Like she knows that it was a comic book movie beforehand. But
Probably from you talking.
Yeah, that, and I mean, just got to give it up to their marketing campaign too. This was one of the best, if not the best, marketing campaigns for a movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, the marketing campaign is great. There's no doubt about that. The only thing I kind of had an issue with is like in the trailers, they do say a lot of the jokes that are in the movie, and it was like to a point where I was like, oh wait, that was in the trailer. And like, granted, they had to make the trailer funny.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I was kind of hoping that like, there's some things that were definitely changed. Like in the trailer where you see his butt and like it's just like, how did I squeeze my ass into these?
Yeah, there's
like,
a couple things, and then in the first trailer and the second trailer, there's a difference in jokes, and there's some that didn't make it into the movie.
There's some, but there's a lot that are in the movie though.
Yeah, there is, and it stinks. But once the Blu-ray or DVD comes out, you could watch
the gag reel, or not the gag reel.
Well, gag reel, Linorama, or even like. They have bonus scenes, but then they also have extended scenes, which they do twist like the lines around.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, like that was a little bit of an issue, but I got over it because they were still really funny.
They were, yeah. It didn't bother. Like I said, it bothered me more that the trailers had it than it didn't affect my experience of the movie.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it more than made up for it. It's still so fun, and even watching the Deadpool trailers and hearing those jokes again, they still were just as funny, in my opinion, at least. But yeah, so they owe this movie to success of this movie to the marketing campaign. Ryan Reynolds, they owe it to the test footage getting leaked and the demand for it. Yeah,
leaked.
Quote unquote. Well, it was leaked.
Yeah, but like that's kind of the wrong term. It was put out there.
It was intentionally released.
Leaking is a secret. You know, it's such an overused term.
Yeah. And then Tim Miller for his directorial debut, with a character like this and so much anticipation behind a movie like this, he did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope he directs Deadpool 2. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't.
I mean, the movie, everything fit. Like It's a Deadpool movie.
It-
It's exactly what I would imagine it to be.
Perfectly captured the essence of the character.
Yeah, and like I don't know why they would change anything
Yeah,
unless he doesn't want to come back.
which I doubt it.
Yeah,
He's gonna, because he worked on the test footage. He made the test footage and he loved it. And he said this was like a great experience. And him and Ryan Reynolds have a great working relationship.
Yeah, and I've heard that from the movie too. That everyone in the movie, it was everyone got along. It was like a fun movie to shoot.
Yeah,
You know,
which
and
is great.
Sometimes you see these great movies, but then you hear like horror stories of like things that happened. Like actually, there's like for example, like right now, Resident Evil, the 7th one or the 100th, I don't know. I don't know why they keep making them. Like 2 people have like died already on the set or something like that.
Yeah, recently actually.
Yeah, pretty recently, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But like you hear horror stories like that behind movies, and you're like,
For a shitty movie too, like it's bad.
I didn't want to say that, but like yeah, that movie's not if in all intents and purposes or whatever you want to categorize it as or whatever. That movie's probably not going to be good because there hasn't been a good Resident Evil movie since the second Resident Evil movie, and I think it's a good movie, but it's probably not a good movie.
No, it wasn't well received. Yeah, and this movie had a small budget, and last night alone, it made like, was it like 13 or 15 million dollars, and then today, looking at its Wikipedia page, so far, up until right now, it's almost 6:30. It's made $25 million on a $58 million budget.
Yeah.
So it's already almost broke even.
Well, that's the budget is $58 million. You said right?
Well, and the marketing campaign. So basically, it has to make the marketing campaign. Let's say was another.
Let's just say it's another $20 million.
Another $20 million. So really, it has to make like $140 million to quote unquote break even. Because the way that Hollywood uses it, it has to make at least double the production budget and the marketing budget. So yeah, but this movie is gonna make more than that. I'm very, very sure it's gonna make a few $100 million.
And I think because has it been released overseas yet?
No.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
There we go.
So yeah, that's gonna make a lot of money. Although in China, wasn't it banned in China or it was banned in?
I don't know if they would ban a Marvel movie
India
in
or
China
something.
because Marvel movies in China do really
No,
well.
I think but China itself, because of the graphic nature of some of these and the jokes. Actually, it began its international rollout. It releases in early this week with certain previews, and it earned $12 million in 7 international markets on small releases. So now it's going to have majority of releases, the major release. It's going to be released in 80 countries, and that's starting today, fully. So it's already made, almost half its production budget. It's going to make its marketing budget. It's going to be a very financial success.
Yeah, I could. Yeah,
because if you think about it,
a very financial success.
All right, very financially successful. Excuse me for my idiotic language, choice of words. And you think about it, $58 million for a production budget for a comic book movie is very low.
No, it really is. I mean, the crappiest Pirates of the Caribbean movie, which is the 3rd one. I mean, that's not a comic book movie, but again, that's a big budget movie. Was $300 million, and then to be honest, I thought the effects. Granted, there wasn't as many effects in this movie, were better than that movie.
Yeah, and like the average comic book superhero movie is anywhere from $150 million to $250 million, $300 million. Obviously,
Green Lantern was, I think, $200 million budget.
Yeah, and look at how that turned out.
They lost money on that movie.
Yeah, and I mean, like you look at Avengers: Infinity War, their budget's going to be astronomical. But that movie is going to make.
Is it $500 million between 2 movies?
Supposedly, it could be a little bit more, a little bit less.
That's
give
not
or take $150 million, let's say.
Yeah,
but it's still small. Like Iron Man's production budget was well over between $150 to $200 million something, and that made a shit ton of money. The Avengers movies production budgets are like $250, $275 million. So this is very, very small in comparison. And it came out great with that small budget. So it's got, the critical success. It's going to have financial success, and it's going to have success with the fans, not just like, comic book fans who read the comics and who love Deadpool, but a general audience.
There's also people who, you can't forget the people who don't really read the comics but are fans of the movies.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean by the general audience.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a hit on all cylinders, and I mean, Fox already expects it because they greenlit a movie before it was even fully released, which is great.
Yeah,
it's great.
Whenever you hear of a studio really doing that, you get a sense of like there's a lot of confidence behind like how successful the movie's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, like Marvel has done it with each of their movies, but still, it's.
I mean, they did it with like 8 movies.
Yeah, but it's different. Like generally, that doesn't really happen right away.
No, it doesn't. Not with normal production companies or
yeah, like it's
distributing
rare.
companies.
It's rare, but that's great, and I'm excited for it, and I love this movie.
Yeah, I loved it too. I mean, like I completely recommend it. I won't like. My dad is someone who doesn't like comic book movies, but there are comic book movies he likes.
Yeah,
like he loves Dark Knight. He thinks the first Batman movie with Michael Keaton and the second one's really good. He likes the first Superman movie, and he doesn't really like the Marvel movies except for Guardians of the Galaxy. He really likes that movie a lot.
And I think that this one has a lot of the appeal that Guardians did because of the humor, and the action.
I'm gonna try to get him to see this movie.
Yeah, I think that a lot of comic book movies, they can be isolating in certain ways, but this one has a broad appeal because of how well it blends comic book references in history and the characters. It's got some pretty good characters regardless.
You know what I also noticed about this movie too is that this is the first Marvel movie to have like full frontal nudity. There's been Marvel movies in the past where there's like topless scenes, like in the Punisher movie with John Travolta.
Yeah.
Which that movie's criminally underrated. It's not that bad. People crap on that movie.
I like the Thomas Jane one better.
Which one's that?
This is the second one. Like there was John Travolta's, and then they tried redoing it again.
Oh, the one with what's his face? It's the one with the guy what's his name from Seinfeld's in it.
Yeah.
I hate that one.
I know, but
that was the worst one.
I know.
That's worse than the Dolph Lundgren one. All right, but that's a future episode.
Deadpool is a Marvel property. It's just not made by Marvel Studios.
It's not made by Marvel Studios.
Fox, 20th Century Fox owns the rights to it, the film rights, like it does with X-Men and Fantastic Four.
Right, but as far as
that's in case you're confused.
But anything with the name Marvel, and when it comes to anything cinema-wise, has never had that much nudity in a movie. And then when they're walking through the strip club, dude, you see everything.
Oh yeah,
which was awesome.
Yeah, I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah,
but yeah, and this movie is rated R. That's why it's the first rated R comic book movie, I think, since Spawn. Was Spawn rated R? Or in recent memory, and since I think other comic book movies, the highest rating they had was PG-13.
Because naturally comic book movies that are rated R don't make money because there's a lot of kids can't go see it essentially.
Right.
Like I can take grant there's scenes in Iron Man that might not be appropriate for like if I had a kid, but they're
not like this.
Yeah, they're not like this. It's kind of like a PG-13 is like the middle ground.
Yeah, and
you don't have to cut back.
Ryan Reynolds, the director Tim Miller, and the producers had to fight hard with Fox to get them to make it rated R. Mm-hmm. And this movie needed to be rated R.
It had to.
Deadpool has to be rated R. And then when Fox announced they wanted to get it PG-13, it wouldn't be successful if it was PG-13. So they made the right decision with that.
Yeah, they needed to make it R.
Highly benefited it. And there was even that petition by some mom in like Midwest or whatever. It was like making like a petition to Fox to trim it down to a PG-13 movie. And Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool, in character as Deadpool, said, "Fuck you and fuck your kids." More or less. Those weren't his exact words. He does say "fuck you," but there's a little more to it. But yeah, more or less. So I mean, we're gonna do a couch review.
That's gonna be the non-spoiler.
That's gonna be non-spoiler. But for the sake of the podcast, what would you rate the movie?
Oh, I would give it. What kind of scale are we doing?
Out of 10.
Out of 10, 9. I give it a total 9 out of 10.
Yes,
it's really funny. There's really nothing wrong with the movie. That's the thing.
No, it's
like that's the thing too, and it's a shame that comic book movies while they do get well received, there is a stigma. Oh, it's a comic book movie, but then like you see movies like Django Unchained, and then you see Christoph Waltz is from Germany, and yet even while at that time Germany wasn't a country, but it's okay. It's a Academy nominated movie, and I love that movie. I'm not trashing that movie. I think that's one of Quentin's best movies. But like, you look at this movie, and it's a comic book movie, and I mean structural like story when it comes to story structure and as a single movie. Nothing really doesn't make like everything makes sense to a certain degree.
Yeah.
You know, like as far as, superhumans go. But
yeah.
there's nothing really wrong with the movie, and like it's great. And the scenes that are dramatic, you kind of do feel for them. Like it's mainly because the actors are so good, and the comedy's on point 100%. Is it the best movie I've ever seen? Absolutely not. But is it one of the best so far this year? Absolutely. Great. It's so funny.
I think it's a fantastic comic book movie too. It is better than some of the ones Marvel done. Particularly. I mean, obviously Thor is easy to pick on.
Yeah.
Which they're not bad, but I do like them. Thor: The Dark World was a much bigger improvement. But in this world, it's also a very good comic book movie. Aside from being a very good movie, I would also give it a 9 for the same reasons. I think it nailed it on all cylinders.
And I'm glad Fox was able to do this movie because. In hindsight, like Marvel selling a lot of the rights to Fox now works out. I used to be like, oh, that sucks. Now Disney's Marvel can't do X-Men, but now it's like, dude, Disney would never greenlight a movie like this ever.
Absolutely not. And you know what? I got to give it up to Fox because for the majority of the X-Men movies, and except with, in my opinion, X3 and then X-Men Origins Wolverine, The Wolverine, which is the second Wolverine solo movie, was okay.
I liked it. I really liked it until the end. The ending was bad.
The ending is bad, but it's not bad. It's much better than X-Men Origins. They've done well with X-Men. So I got to give them appreciation for that. Now, Fantastic Four is a different story with them, but they've done a very good job with X-Men. And
I almost can't even blame the studio for that, though. I mean, I still have never seen the movie, but supposedly,
I meant all 3 Fantastic Fours they released.
True. Okay.
And then the one that they didn't release in 1994.
Which is awesome.
Which is on
that movie's it's awesome for not
because it's a terrible
movie. It's a terrible movie. We got to get that out there.
And but you know what? I think it's kind of it sucks that we'll never see X-Men interact with the Avengers, and we'll never get to see like Wolverine or other X-Men characters that fit into the Avengers mold on there.
Because Wolverine is just as much as an Avenger as he is an X-Men in the comics.
Yeah, and he first gained popularity because of the Avengers.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a good thing because of how big the X-Men universe is. To put it into the Marvel universe that Disney has now,
it might be too convoluted.
It would have been too convoluted, and I think it would have caused more problems than it would have been worth.
Right.
Because now that the X-Men universe, with Deadpool, they brought in a whole bunch of new fans too, and they can make it broader, and they don't have to. It's easier for them to do it than if Marvel would have had the Avengers and the X-Men to do. So I got to give it up to Fox for that, and it's great. And I'm glad they're broadening out by putting in Deadpool, who's a fan favorite character, and they're bringing in new people for it. And the fact that they already greenlit it for a sequel, they have that much confidence in it, which they should. It's great, and I think they did an excellent job with Deadpool. I highly, highly recommend it. Although if you've made it to this far in the podcast, I hope you have seen the movie already.
Yeah.
If not, then you just got it all spoiled.
Or even if you should put it in the description. Hey, huge spoilers.
Yeah. But although, even if you listen to this without seeing the movie, still go see the movie. It's an excellent movie. It sucks to have stuff spoiled for you, but, it's still enjoyable to see, even if it was spoiled for you. And you know what? It's not like this isn't like Star Wars, where, like, Star Wars, to your viewing experience for Star Wars, Star Wars, The Force Awakens in particular, since the most recent one, obviously, it would have sucked really bad to have it spoiled because there's huge twists in it. In this, there's really no twists.
Not at all. You kind of know what's going to happen.
You know what's going to happen, so there's really not much to be spoiled. It's fine, but yeah, go see the movie if you haven't yet and you made it this far. Continue listening to our podcast, like, comment, share, subscribe. We're on YouTube, Podbean. You can download us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at RickPatMick.
And I'm at Less Than Connor. Also, to keep a lookout on. I'm probably gonna do it tonight, or if tomorrow. I'm gonna start a Twitter account for Awesome Sunday Show.
Right, and there's one for the Couch Review, which is Connor's movie review channel. Check that out. It's on YouTube. If you go to our YouTube page, it's it's the featured channel. On the right side, I'm gonna put links for that in the description. There's a
Vice versa too,
and vice versa. And there's a Twitter for that, which is the Couch Review, right?
Yeah, it's just the Couch Review.
Just the Couch Review.
Which I just got my 50th follower today.
Hell yeah.
Which is awesome for Twitter. 50 followers.
Yeah. So check all those out. Support us as much as you can. Appreciate it. Expect more things to come. I'm gonna do like Let's Plays and other stuff.
I do have a capture card. It's just figuring out how to sync the camera and audio and video together, which there are YouTube videos to teach me.
Yeah, and there's software, but yeah, just keep sticking with us. Thank you if you listen to this. Share the fuck out of this. Download, even if you don't really want to listen to it, just download it on iTunes.
Yeah, or just tell people. Just
tell people.
Yeah, just be like, hey, listen, you might like this show.
Yeah, tell your friends to like it.
Yeah,
we know. I'm sure you know people who like this shit. So.
I mean, like we should be like we should just start. We should start the Tell Your Friends podcast. Just like Taking Back Sunday had that album Tell All Your Friends.
Yeah,
because I mean, that's a great album name.
Yeah, all right, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, have an awesome Sunday.